Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our English pronunciation and prosody session. Today, we're jumping into one of the true superpowers of fluent speaking, phrasing. Phrasing is basically word teamwork. Words that belong together should stay together. No unexpected pauses, no dramatic cliffhangers in the middle of a sentence. And trust me, one tiny pause can turn an innocent sentence into something very different. Take this example.
My husband calls me a sex object. He says every time he wants sex, I object.
A woman says her husband calls her a sex object, which normally means a very attractive woman, someone like Marilyn Monroe. But then she says, No, he calls me a sex object because whenever he wants sex, I object. See? Suddenly, we've gone from Hollywood glamour to courtroom drama. In the first meaning, sex object, there's no pause. It's one smooth idea. In the second, sex object, that little pause and the change in intonation flip the meaning upside down. One tiny pause equals a brand new meaning. In writing, we use commas to show these breaks, but in speaking, what do you think we use? That's right, breathing. But here's the twist. You don't pause just because you're running out of breath. You'd pause to signal meaning, to say, this is one idea, or new idea coming. Let's look at an example. Your donation just helped someone get a job. The verb helped needs two elements. Object, someone. Object complement, get a job. These two must stay together. You cannot separate them like this. Your donation just helped someone get a job. Your donation just helped someone get a job. Pausing in the wrong spot doesn't just sound odd, it can completely distort the meaning. So this brings us to a key rule. Fundamental principle of pausing. Words that form one idea must be spoken without a pause. We call this unit of meaning a thought group. When we speak, we chunk sentences into thought groups and pronounce each group like one smooth, continuous word. Now, you might wonder, how do I actually say a whole thought group smoothly? Great question. English relies on connected speech, the linking techniques that make words flow naturally. Dr. Nanhi Burns has several excellent videos on connected speech, so make sure to watch those if you want to master this essential skill. A thought group doesn't just flow. It also carries its own stress pattern called sentence stress. Just like long words have primary and secondary stress, thought groups have their own internal rhythm. When you combine connected speech with correct sentence stress, you create the rhythm and melody of English, the final frontier of sounding truly native. In our example, the rhythm and melody flow like this. Your donation just helped someone get a job. The focus word is job, and the stressable words are the key content words leading up to it. If you want to fully understand how English rhythm and melody work, check out Dr. Nanhi Burns' prosody course at www.manhiburns.com. Without this musical foundation, it's impossible to shadow English speech accurately. But for today, our mission is phrasing. So let's start with two big questions. When should you not pause? When should you pause? Let's explore the first one together. Do not pause. A group of words in a sentence that express one idea is called a phrase or a thought group. Examples include a prepositional phrase, a group of words headed by a preposition, such as on the gray marble table. A noun phrase, a noun with its modifiers or clauses, such as the man who is sitting on the bench. And a verb phrase, auxiliary verbs, the main verb, and all necessary complements, such as have helped someone get a job. The fundamental rule is simple. You don't pause inside a phrase. Even a short sentence can function as a single thought group. Sentences like, I am Nanhi, or I had dinner are spoken smoothly with no pause. However, if the subject becomes very long because it contains modifiers, you may pause between the subject and the verb. For example, the man who is wearing a hat is my uncle. Some of the male students in my class have very progressive ideas. Individuals who did not show up for the contest will not get the permit. Next, do not pause inside a verb phrase. A verb phrase includes auxiliary verbs, the main verb, and all necessary complements, such as objects or object complements. Because these elements work together to express one complete idea, they must be spoken as a single thought group without interruption. For example, should have been me, must be raining, am not eating junk food, I ate the cake, I saw her running, I definitely prefer to go out. Similarly, do not pause inside a noun phrase. A noun phrase contains a noun and all the words that describe or modify it, determiners, adjectives, and even clauses. All of these pieces belong together, so there should be no pause within the phrase. For instance, a story, a boring story, my stupidly boring story, one of the most boring stories I've ever heard of. In addition, avoid pausing inside a prepositional phrase. Since a prepositional phrase is headed by a preposition and ends with its object, the whole unit expresses one idea and must stay together. Examples include at the table, in the room, with the math homework. Furthermore, do not pause between an adverb and the word it modifies. An adverb should flow directly into the verb, adjective, or adverb it describes. For example, in she quickly ran to the store, there is no pause between quickly and ran. This rule becomes especially important when dealing with squinting modifiers, adverbs that can attach to two different parts of a sentence. Consider the written sentence, those who sold quickly made profit. In writing, quickly could modify sold or made profit, making the meaning ambiguous. In speaking, however, you can use pausing to clarify meaning. If quickly modifies sold, those who sold quickly made profit. If quickly modifies made profit, those who sold quickly made profit. Proper pausing removes ambiguity and makes the speaker's intended meaning instantly clear. Let's look at another important rule about pausing when you speak. Don't pause right before a subordinate clause. A subordinate clause is the part of a sentence that depends on the main idea. Think of it like this. The main clause is the action. The subordinate clause is the explanation. Since explanations attach directly to the action, they shouldn't be separated by a pause. For example, he left because he was late. The reason follows immediately. If you pause, he left because he was late, it sounds like two separate ideas, even though they belong together. Another example, I will call you when I get home. The time information is part of the same meaning, so it should stay connected. But if you say, I will call you when I get home, the pause creates an unnecessary break and makes the sentence feel less natural. Here's one more. I like to make soup when it's cold outside. The condition, when it's cold, directly completes the idea. No pause is needed. So the general idea is simple. When the second part of the sentence explains the first part, keep them together. If you pause before the explanation, the listener momentarily loses the connection and the meaning feels chopped up. That's why subordinate clauses should flow right after the main clause without a break. And finally, let's talk about phrasal verbs. A phrasal verb combines a verb with a preposition or an adverb to create a new meaning, different from the original verb alone. For example, turn off means to switch something off. Look up means to search for information. Give up on means to stop trying or abandon something. Phrasal verbs are always spoken as one unit, so you should not pause between the verb and its particle. Here are some example sentences. She turned off the lights before leaving. I will look up the address in the directory. You should not give up on your dreams so easily. Now, sometimes it can be tricky to tell whether you are dealing with a prepositional phrase or a phrasal verb because the words look the same, but the meaning changes depending on how you group them. Take this sentence, for example. We laughed at the party. This sentence can mean two different things. We had fun at the party. Here, at the party is a prepositional phrase. You should chunk it together with the party, but separate it from laughed. We ridiculed the party. Here, laughed at is a phrasal verb. You must chunk laughed at together because the meaning comes from the verb plus particle combination. So the takeaway is always keep phrasal verbs intact and pay attention to meaning when similar-looking phrases appear. These rules cover most cases of when not to pause in English. That's a lot for today, but it's essential to understand. The key idea is don't pause in the middle of a single thought. Many non-native speakers pause too often, which not only changes the meaning, but also makes their speech sound less fluent. When you shadow native speakers, pay close attention to where they pause, and notice the rhythm and melody within each thought group. Listen several times and internalize the sound in your head. Don't just imitate. Understand pausing, rhythm, melody, connected speech, and pronunciation. Practicing incorrectly builds bad habits and muscle memory that are hard to undo. Remember, practice makes permanent, and only perfect practice leads to true mastery. While avoiding unnecessary pauses is critical for fluency, knowing when to pause is just as important for conveying meaning clearly and effectively. In our next lecture, we'll explore 4 situations where you must pause.